Dodi and Diana is a new play set in the 3 days leading up to the 25th anniversary of the death of Princess Diana. I wrote the play initially wanting to explore the story of what happened to this relationship between Dodi and Diana. And the play does explore that, though really it is a play set August of 2022. And it's about a married couple that goes to Paris and actually is staying in the same hotel that Dodi and Diana were staying in the night that they got in the car and ended up crashing and dying. And so the play, which is a two-character play, explores how this contemporary couple ends up being linked to Dodi and Diana. Almost exactly 2 years ago, it just kind of hit me. Certain parts of the Diana story are really popular and other parts get left out. And I won't age myself, but I was alive in 1997 when this happened. And I remember the event of it very well. And just the news reports at the time saying Diana's been in a crash, her Egyptian boyfriend, Dodi Fayed, is dead. And being Egyptian and just hearing Egyptian boyfriend. And I said, well, it's funny, I don't know anything about him. I started doing a little bit of Dodi digging only to find there's practically nothing. There's this much. And the amount of stuff you can read about Diana could fill this house that I'm in 15 times. I think it was with that curiosity that I started approaching writing the play. And I wanted to sort of figure out if I was going to explore the story of Dodi, what approach would I use? And the idea of setting it on the anniversary happened pretty fast. It was just oh, it's going to be set in the hotel room on the 25th anniversary. And then, as I typically do with most of my writing, it's I plant the seed of the idea in my brain and I sort of let my subconscious mind work at it. And so over that time, which was about a year, the characters in the play started to emerge. Some of the basic conflicts started to emerge. I began writing the play almost exactly a year ago. And then I wrote the early draft of the play very, very fast, fastest I've ever written a draft of a play. My training is in directing. A lot of my background is in working on new plays with writers and directing world premieres. I think when I write, my director brain is firing because I'm always thinking about how the play lives on stage. I mean, creation of theater to me is not the creation of a script, it's the creation of a production, right? A play is not meant to be a document that you read, it's meant to be a thing that you see. And not necessarily every playwright approaches it that way. But because my director brain is always firing as I'm writing, I am thinking a lot about what the play looks like, what the visual storytelling is, what are the things that I can put down on the page that indicate what's going on underneath the words? To a certain extent, I'm always thinking about the practicality of it. So I think about those things. And ultimately, I think what informs my playwriting the most from my director brain is that I'm really interested in performance. I'm really interested in creating roles for actors that give them a lot to dig their teeth into. Same with designers, too. I want the plays that I write to sort of fire up the imaginations of the people who will end up creating it, the director and the actors and the designers. Yeah, I mean, Peter and Kendall, a wonderful actor, has been a very good friend of mine for many years. In the play, they're the contemporary couple that we're following are named Jason and Samira. And Jason, a white Canadian man who's an investment banker, and Samira, his wife, is an Egyptian American actress. And with the role of Jason, I was really interested in how he's a different character in his private life than he is in his public life. And I was really interested in both of these characters sort of exploring that private versus public, which is such a big part of what was interesting about the Diana story. We can really only ever understand her life through the public facing component of it. And even the writing and different research that's been done into what was her life really like is still speculative. In this play, I wanted to create these very sort of private glimpses into the life of a married couple. And Peter and his tremendous skill as an actor, it ended up being sort of a happy and fortuitous situation that he would perform in the play, because I think in order for us to do this play, we're really encouraging everybody, myself, the director, the actors, to sort of look at their own relationships and marriages for those of us who are married. Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting because I think that most audiences, particularly when they're coming to a full production of a play, don't often think about well, how did this play get to here where you're seeing the set and the lighting and the costumes and all of that. And much of every play's journey is through this often pretty long developmental process, which can consist of closed development, where it's just the artists in a room working on the play, the actors, directors, sometimes there's a dramaturg. There'll be some, not always, but often these public facing components in development where the script is presented in reading, which is what we'll be doing. And that's such an important, really vital step in the development of any play, bringing an audience in when a play is still finding its voice, when the characters are still taking shape, when the structure of the play is still finding itself. And you get feedback because you're really seeing often like, oh, that's working. Oh, that's not working. That joke, which I thought was funny, is not that funny. Oh, that was a big turning point moment and the audience didn't track that. The developmental process is so vital in the learning of how the play is functioning, so that by the time it does get to production, some of those questions have already been addressed. To answer your question, I think an ideal audience is one, for me, that doesn't just want to sit back and relax, that wants to sit forward, that wants to be challenged a little bit, and wants to have a good time, but understanding that the thing that makes theater such a vital art form, as opposed to, I love cinema and I love television and I love all sorts of other art forms, but it's the most alive art form because the thing that is being created is real and in the moment, with living people in the audience and living people on stage. That exchange wants to feel really potent and really alive moment to moment, and not the sort of passive experience that you would have if you're sitting in a movie theater.